The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish the same things are true without checking facts first. Unfortunately, some members of media use those platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think.
And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Al Jazeera's Hossam Shabat killed by Israel in latest targeted assassinations. Press, I don't think you should put press on there anymore. I don't think that's helping protect you. Put IDF on there, and then you might be okay. Separate Israeli attacks in the Gaza Strip yesterday killed 2 journalists, including Al Jazeera correspondent Hossam Shabat, who was killed in northern Gaza when an airstrike in Beit Lahia targeted his car. Shabat insisted to continue reporting amid the very horrific and unprecedented escalation taking place in northern Gaza. The Israeli military targeted his vehicle before any prior warning, Al Jazeera correspondent Tarek Abu Azum said. Earlier, the Israeli army killed Palestine Today journalist Mohammed Mansour in Khan Yunis in southern Gaza. Abu Azum said that Mansour was killed by Israel in his house alongside his wife and his son without any prior warning. Yeah. The greatest democracy in the Middle East. The 2 journalists were among 51 Palestinians killed in Israeli attacks on Monday, medical sources told Al Jazeera. At least 208 journalists have been killed in Israeli attacks since October 2023, according to the government media office in Gaza. In a statement, the media office said it strongly condemns the targeting, killing, and assassination of Palestinian journalists by the Israeli occupation. You condemn it? Well, yeah, I would think so. I think that would go without saying. Adding, we hold the Israeli occupation, the U.S. administration, and the countries participating in the genocide, such as the UK, Germany, and France, fully responsible for committing this heinous crime. In November 2024, Hossam Shabat was injured by an Israeli airstrike after the occupation forces had publicly threatened to assassinate him 1 month before. The 23-year-old journalist had traveled to the site of a nearby strike on a house in order to cover the news when he was caught by the second blast. 23 years old, such a baby. Upon arriving at the house packed with terrified people, I could hear their desperate screams for help from the second floor, Shabat wrote in a post on social media. The moment I stepped inside, the house was bombed again, and dismembered body parts of the wounded flew around me, he went on to say. Rubble crashed down on me and my colleagues. One first responder was killed, and while my colleague and I were injured, many others did not survive. The strike came after the Israeli military accused Shabat and 5 other Al Jazeera journalists of membership in Hamas and or the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, the PIJ. The Israeli military did not provide any evidence for the accusation. There is another theme: no evidence. The list of journalists allegedly associated with Gaza's resistance movement that the Israeli army released at the time constituted a clear assassination threat against media workers, Shabat and others said. In 2024, the Israeli army was responsible for nearly 70% of all journalists killed throughout the world, the deadliest year for journalists globally, according to a report released on February 12th by the Committee to Protect Journalists. At least 124 journalists across 18 countries were killed last year, making it the deadliest year for reporters and media workers since CPJ, that would be the Committee to Protect Journalists, started keeping records more than 3 decades ago, reflecting surging levels of international conflict, political unrest, and criminality worldwide, the report states. The New York-based NGO specifically cites the U.S.-Israeli genocide in Gaza as the primary cause of the 22% increase in journalist deaths from the previous year, stating that the bloody offensive accounted for 85 journalist deaths, all at the hands of the Israeli military. Meanwhile, Sudan State TV crew and a military reporters killed in a drone attack near the presidential palace. 4 members of a Sudanese state television crew and 2 military reporters were killed on Friday in a drone attack claimed by the RSF, the Rapid Support Forces, near the presidential palace in central Khartoum, officials and military sources said. A television crew arrived at the palace compound shortly after the army announced it had retaken the area after several days of fierce fighting with the RSF. Sudan's Information Minister Khalid al-Assir said in a statement that national television producer and director Farouk Ahmed Mohammed al-Zahir, cameraman Magdi Abdel Rahman, and driver Waj Jafar Onur had been killed while performing their duty and covering the battle to retake the Republican Palace on Friday morning. Ibrahim Madawi, another director at the national television, later died from serious injuries sustained in the drone attack, Al-Assir added. Military sources told Sudan Tribune that after being driven from the palace, RSF forces launched a swarm of what appeared to be suicide drones that targeted army soldiers deployed at the site. The sources said that in addition to the Sudan National Television crew, Lieutenant Colonel Hassan Ibrahim and Captain Imad el-Din Hassan, both attached to the military media department, and several other soldiers were among the victims. Sudan Tribune could not independently verify the number of casualties, but they did report them nonetheless. What the hell? You get the fuck out of here. Meanwhile, a Burkini journalist held after defending freedom of speech. Media body. So, authorities detained two journalists in Burkina Faso on Monday after the media body to which they belonged announced attacks on freedom of expression under the country's military rulers, the association said. The Journalists Association of Burkina Faso, AJB, said on Facebook that its president Guezoma Sanoga and Deputy President Bukari Ouoba were detained at a national press center in the capital, Ouagadougou, and taken to an unknown destination. Burkina has seen numerous kidnappings of people viewed as critical of the junta under its chief Ibrahim Traoré since he led a coup in 2022. In remarks to the association's Congress on Friday, Sanogo criticized attacks on the freedom of expression and the press, saying they had reached an unprecedented level. Other journalists spoke at the Congress of the abductions of 7 colleagues last year, some of whom are still missing. Media rights group Reporters Without Borders, wait, RSF, isn't that RSF up here too? What the hell? There's too many RSFs. Demanded the authorities make known where they are detained and release them without delay in a statement sent to AFP. The style of arrest by individuals presenting themselves as intelligence police resembles numerous other arrests and abductions organized by the military authorities since their arrival in power, said RSF's Sub-Saharan Africa Director Sabadou Marang. Also Monday, a third journalist, Luc Pagbelgium, of the private television channel BF1, was taken by agents of the National Security Council who wanted only to interview him, quote-unquote, about a report on the AJB Congress, the broadcaster said. Last week, a political group said 5 of its members, including a journalist, had been abducted after it denounced civilian massacres blamed on the army and allied militias. The group, SENS, had criticized videos posted on social media over the past week showing dozens of bloodied bodies with hands and feet bound, many of them appearing to be women, children, and elderly. Oh, look at that. It's another women and children and elderly getting murdered. Burkinabe authorities have denied the accusations of mass killings by soldiers and allied militias. International NGOs, including RSF and Amnesty International, have condemned several of the kidnappings of journalists. RSF said in its statement on Monday that the arrests were part of a strategy aiming to systematically silence all critical voices in the country. NGOs have also reported cases of people being forcibly recruited into the security forces to be sent to fight jihadists following a mobilization order in 2023. The campaigners say the order targets figures critical of the country's leaders. In the past decade, Burkina Faso has been caught up in a spiral of violence blamed on jihadists that has spilt over from neighboring Mali and Niger and since spread beyond the 3 countries' borders. The military authorities in Burkina Faso have also suspended several international media organizations, accusing them of publishing false information about the conflict. Fake news, fake news. The non-government group ACLED, which researches victims of conflicts, estimates that jihadist violence in the country has killed more than 26,000 people, half of them since the junta took over. Like its neighbors Niger and Mali, Burkina Faso under Traoré has turned away from its former colonial master France and drawn closer to Russia, quitting the regional alliance ECOWAS. In May 2024, he passed a charter that authorizes him to hold power for a further 5 years. Back here at home, a sad day for higher education as Columbia University tightens protest rules after Trump threatens funding cut. Osama number 5 and Spirit of the Age popping in over there on Rumble. Good to see y'all. Good to see y'all. Just chilling in the cave complex. Yes, indeed. Columbia University announced Friday that it would implement new student conduct policies, bowing to pressure from the White House after the Trump administration threatened to withhold $400 million in federal funding. Extortion for, censorship. That's what it amounts to. The move comes amid escalating tensions over campus protests related to Israel's war on Gaza, which has killed at least 61,700 people, mostly women and children. The university has faced mounting political pressure as pro-Palestinian encampments spread to campuses nationwide, placing Columbia at the heart of the growing movement. The move comes as Trump is cracking down on higher education in general, as we told you at the top of the show, on Friday ordering the dismantling of the Department of Education, which includes programs to investigate anti-Semitism, one of the main reasons given for crackdown on pro-Palestinian activists. The new rules include a ban on face masks during demonstrations, mandatory ID checks for protests, and the hiring of additional security officers authorized to remove or arrest students. It's a sad day because the Columbia administration was blackmailed by the U.S. administration, David Frank, a professor of rhetoric and political communication, told the New Arab. The function of higher education is to sponsor free inquiry. Columbia University has emerged as a focal point in the global student protest movement, with pro-Palestinian encampments spreading across campuses worldwide. Its status as a prominent Ivy League institution in New York City has placed it at the center of political debate. In a letter to students, Interim President Katrina Armstrong addressed the university's decision, saying it reflected the substantive work we've been doing over the last academic year to advance our mission, ensure uninterrupted academic activities, and make every student, faculty, and staff member safe and welcome on our campus. Except for, protesters. Armstrong assumed the role last year following the resignation of Nemet Minouche Shafiq, who stepped down amid mounting tensions between students, the university administration, and politicians. Despite numerous developments at Columbia over the past 18 months, critics have described the new policies as a significant blow to free speech. Endorsing far-right authoritarian crackdowns by an administration filled with Christian nationalists and white supremacists will not keep Jews safe. Ooh. Yeah, because a good majority of Zionists are Christian. Hello, said Jonah Rubin, a campus organizing manager with Jewish Voice for Peace. Jews have always thrived in communities that embrace free inquiry, uphold the rights of minority groups, welcome immigrants, and protect basic civil rights. He urged universities to resist political pressure. We need the higher education sector to stand up for its basic mission, uphold its stated values, and defend its community members who are under attack by a state bent on dismantling any form of dissent. While Columbia's decision has faced widespread criticism, some acknowledge the difficult position the university was in. I can hardly blame the Columbia administration for yielding to the pressure, said Frank. They desperately need funds for researching cancer and other social ills, and they were making a trade-off. This is another step in the direction of authoritarian rule. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I've said this before, that, in order for, during when Reagan was president, he wanted the drinking age up to 21, and he blackmailed states, saying, if you don't raise your drinking limits to 21, I'll take away all your highway funding. And a lot of these places needed the highway funding to keep the highways open for for commerce to flow. It's the same strong arm thing, blackmailing, but this time this is for, we'll cut off your funding if you don't cut off these protests. If you don't nip these in the bud, no cash for you, my man. Palestinian American student suspended for revealing professor was a medic in the Israeli army. This is at Emory University. Emory University. I believe that's it's in Atlanta. So, home of Cop City. If you like that place. Spirit of the age. You just had lunch. Good for you. You fixing breakfast, Go Start? Okay. When 28-year-old Umaima Mohammed gave an interview to Democracy Now! During the student encampment for Gaza at Emory University in 2024, she believed, like any other student enrolled there, that she was protected by the institution's policy on free expression. Then she realized she was in the South and was like, oh, yeah, never mind. But according to a report in The Guardian published on Monday, Mohammed, who is obtaining a sociology PhD and a medical degree at the same time, was suspended 7 months later. In that interview, Mohammed referred to, but did not name, a professor among the medical faculty who had returned from being a volunteer medic for the Israeli forces, in effect questioning how the university can reconcile the professor's academic position with his role in an army that had killed tens of thousands of civilians in Gaza. The professor participated in aiding and abetting a genocide, in aiding and abetting the destruction of the healthcare system in Gaza, and the murder of over 400 healthcare workers, and is now back at Emory, so-called teaching medical students and residents how to take care of patients, Mohammed said. The professor filed a complaint saying he did not feel safe. Oh, I don't feel safe, and demanded that the university investigate Mohammed. Oh, you telling the truth on me and stuff. What did he quit it? Quit it. At that point in April, Emory had already made headlines around the country for its swift and violent crackdown on pro-Palestinian student protests, with police using stun guns, tear gas grenades, and rubber bullets on campus, probably from Cop City. Is that thing built yet? There's probably one somewhere. You had smoked cheese. Nobody likes a bragger. In July, the university said it found Mohammed had violated the medical school's code of conduct because she disparaged an individual in her television interview, even though she didn't name him. A number of people interjected, including Ilya Nemenman, the chair of Emory's Committee for Open Expression, and George Shepard, a law professor and president of Emory's Faculty Senate. But an associate dean at Emory insisted that Mohammed either accept the investigation's results and face the consequences or attend a hearing in November. That event, she later told The Guardian, was one of the most dehumanizing 2 hours of my life. 3 people, the professor in question, another dean who also complained about her, and the professor's faculty advisor, all demanded that Mohammed never be allowed to practice medicine. The advisor in particular at one point screamed, "Who are you to decide what's a genocide?" Mohammed recounted to The Guardian. The dictionary, they know what a genocide is, and she probably looked in there first and said, oh, wait a minute, I think murdering children is that, and trying to eradicate a whole race of people. I think that's genocide. A week later, Mohammed was suspended from Emory's medical school for a year, but she is far from alone in facing such action for speaking up about the Palestinians. Just this month alone, a renowned Iranian professor of international law was barred from Yale University because a pro-Israeli AI-powered website alleged she was linked to a terrorist group. We told you about that. Badar Khansuri, an Indian national and postdoctorate fellow working at the Al-Walid bin Talal Center for Muslim-Christian Understanding at Georgetown University, was detained by U.S. Customs agents. His bio said that he was working on a project that examined the potential causes that hinder cooperation among religiously diverse societies and possibilities to overcome those hindrances. The Department of Homeland Security did not respond directly to questions from Middle East Eye, that's where this is coming from, on Suri's detention for an earlier article, but instead sent a statement in which it accused Suri of actively spreading Hamas propaganda, there you go, and promoting anti-Semitism, the double whammy of Hamas and anti-Semitism on social media. Suri has close connections to a known or suspected terrorist who is a senior advisor to Hamas. The Secretary of State issued a determination on March 15th of this year that Suri's activities and presence in the U.S. rendered him deportable. The statement sent to MEE read. The DHS did not provide any evidence or online reference to its claims. As per usual, Suri's arrest has prompted outrage amongst his colleagues who described him as a respected academic and scholar. Mahmoud Khalil, a Palestinian activist, green card holder, and recent graduate of Columbia University, you remember that old place, was denied protection by university administrators after he complained of threats to his livelihood and family. Like Suri, he was later picked up before being entered into government records as a detainee in Louisiana, where Suri is now being held. A judge last week ordered that Khalil must remain in the U.S. for now and did not grant the government a motion to dismiss Khalil's case against them for wrongful arrest. The government is seeking to have Khalil's case take place in Louisiana, but the judge ordered that it be heard in New Jersey. Again, with the thing, go away. What is this? Okay. All right. Two more. Pakistan charges Balak activists with terrorism. I never heard of this country or province, wherever this is. Pakistan on Sunday charged a Balak rights activist with terrorism, sedition, and murder after she led a demonstration, which ended in the death of 3 protesters, according to police documents. Marang Balak, one of Pakistan's most prominent human rights advocates, has long campaigned for the Balak ethnic group, which claims it has been targeted by Islamabad with harassment and extrajudicial killings. Pakistan has been battling a separatist insurgency in Balochistan for decades, where militants target state forces and foreign nationals in the mineral-rich southwestern province bordering Afghanistan and Iran. On Friday, she and other activists took part in a sit-in protest outside the University of Balochistan in the provincial capital of Quetta. They demanded the release of members of their support group whom they alleged had been detained by security agencies. Police launched a pre-dawn raid on Saturday, arresting Balak and other activists, during which at least 3 protesters died. Both sides blamed each other for the deaths. Mary Lawler, the UN Special Rapporteur on Human Rights Defenders, said she was very concerned at Balak's arrest. Balak and other protesters have been charged with terrorism, sedition, and murder, according to the police charge sheet seen by AFP. Hamza Shafkat, a senior administrative official in Quetta, said that Balak and other activists were held under public order laws. Her lawyer, Imran Balak, is everybody named Balak in that place? Confirmed she was detained in a jail in Quetta. Balak was barred from traveling to the U.S. last year to attend a Time magazine awards gala for rising leaders. Protests among the Balak are often led by women. Balak, now in her 30s, began her activist career age 16 when her father went missing in what his supporters said was an alleged enforced disappearance. His body was found 2 years later. Earlier in March, the separatist Balak Liberation Army, the BLA, which accuses outsiders of plundering the province's natural resources, launched a dramatic train siege that officials said ended in around 60 deaths, half of whom were separatists behind the assault. Sorry, we're not currently accepting comments on this article. Well, too bad. We just gave you some. Finally, I believe this is, yeah, we are. Okay. So finally, hello. Haredi minister under fire for dancing to anti-Zionist song that calls Israeli government infidels. So I believe this is, these guys. Israeli housing minister Yitzhak Goldnoff, which used to be my porn name, until I found out there was an actual person, is under fire after a video emerged showing the Haredi politician dancing to and singing an anti-Zionist song. I wish we had it. Goldknopf from the ultra-Orthodox United Torah Judaism Party attended his nephew's wedding, where the controversial song was blasted out, which slammed secular Israeli attempts to enlist Haredi Jews into the military. The song warns Haredis don't believe in the government of infidels and that we will die and not enlist, according to the Times of Israel. Israeli MKs are now calling for the Haredi minister to be sacked after he was seen in the middle of a group of wedding goers dancing to the anti-enlistment song, which is written by members of the Neturei Karta Haredi sect. Goldknopf issued a statement saying he regretted the move and that he stands with the state of Israel. Of course he did. Unfortunately, some people have taken advantage of this for incitement, as if I agree with the content of the song. So here it is. I disavow and condemn it, he said, with multiple bandages on his face, I'm sure. Ultra-Orthodox parties, some of whom are in the Israeli government, are embroiled in a clash with secular Israeli parties over the enlistment of Haredi Jews into the Israeli military. Last year, the Israeli Supreme Court ruled that ultra-Orthodox Jews should not be exempt from enlistment in the military after decades of avoiding the draft due to sensitivities around Haredis serving in the military, particularly religious students. Opposition leader Yair Lapid, a key figure in the Israeli establishment's call to end the ultra-Orthodox Jewish immunity from military service, slammed Goldknopf and Prime Minister Fuckhead for not sacking the minister. A minister who jumps up to dance against the state of Israel should have been fired this evening. He is the Prime Minister of evasion and refusal. He tweeted. Even far-right Israeli Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich of the religious Zionist Party slammed Goldknopf's stunt and called on Netanyahu to take action. A shame and a disgrace. We can no longer remain silent in the face of Minister Goldknopf's indifference, disdain, and ungratefulness toward the state of Israel and the heroic IDF fighters, he tweeted. I demand that the Prime Minister summon him for clarification this evening, set a red line for him, and put an end to his disgraceful conduct. Netanyahu is now under pressure to sack the minister, a move that could anger some ultra-Orthodox Jewish Israelis at a time the Prime Minister faces a string of domestic scandals. He did well to disavow the song that was played at the event he attended and even expressed regret about it. There's no place for songs against serving in the IDF. It's time to unite the forces within against the enemies without. Oh, so he was cool for a little bit, and then his asshole puckered. And he was like, I didn't say nothing, boss man. Not me. Those were some other kids. Ugh. You know, I mean, in his case, he just got caught, basically. I'd love to get a hold of that tune. I bet it was a pretty rocking tune.